Okay, right now you're supposed to be doing your assignments because next week we're going over final exam on Wednesday, and the following week is our final exam. So what are we looking at? Let me bring up my calendar real quick here. I've already gone over the assignments, I believe, multiple times already in this course. So I don't really need to do that again. We have, today's the 15th. We have next week, we have the 20th and the 22nd, and then we're done with this course. On the 22nd, I'm going to do what's called Final Exam Review, where I'm going to tell you everything you need to study for the final exam. If you're concerned and you have test anxiety already, it's multiple choice, so it's not going to be no programming. The deadline for all of your assignments for this course is the 27th, and we'll not take anything past the 27th. So, and if you've been following along, I've been kind of going through some stuff. This one here, I had this one here has all the assignments that I've actually kind of gone over already. We have any questions about any of the assignments? One of them has a date. It had I think it was like an alarm clock. Anyone actually do the assignments yet?
Yeah, started.
Any problems with the assignments?
Yeah, I do have some problems.
Date pickers?
Yeah. The difference between like what do you have to do for the stopwatch and the timer, like difference.
Oh, the difference between the stopwatch and the timer? Well, one of them is just going to give you the time, and that's going to be like the regular clock. That's version A of it. The other one, the stop and start, is just putting buttons on there to start and to stop.
Just to start and stop the clock?
Yeah. And keep track of how much time, if you want, has gone by. Mimic it as much as possible. Try to implement it. You may not necessarily get it to work correctly. What I want to see is an attempt. So your assignment actually doesn't have to be 100% working properly. Make the best effort. If there's some errors while running it, don't worry about it. Don't kill yourself trying to troubleshoot all those errors.
Yeah, because it's the first time doing coding.
Yeah, so there's a date picker if you haven't figured that out. There's time controls. Let me show you another website that might actually come in handy for you. I believe it's called, let's see, date. Well, if you go here, date picker, or is it time? No, time clock. Time clock calculator, iPhone, source. There's a sample, there's a guy out here, how to use a world clock, world clock's on the iPhone app. Now, there's a guy here that does a tutorial, and I wish I remembered it, or maybe it's not a good idea for me to tell you what it is. Time calculator. He does it, I think his name's Werner, sort of the W, Werner or something. He has like a 5-page tutorial on putting together that app, actually. Something very similar to it. He doesn't provide the source code, which is why I'm giving you the information. Let's see, how to implement a clock. Maybe it's under that. Let's see. How to implement clock. Let's try that out. Analog clock. Let's see now. Anyway, I can't find it. Here, wait a minute. Maybe this is it here, maybe. Clock view in iOS. You have a couple different options. Actually, this is a nice one here. Anyway, long story short, don't reinvent the wheel. Use what you can find in terms of the components, the GUI components. There's a date picker, there's time components, there's clock components. You just have to know which libraries they come from. And on the last one, we did that last assignment on the first day of class or second day of class. The multiple viewed one, pick a tab view. Yeah. Tab controller, add a third view to it. Yeah, that's the trick to that one. So. Alright, so today's about splash screen, so let's load a splash screen in. So go ahead and open up a new Xcode project, unless we have any other questions about the assignments. Oh, you have another one, okay. Tic-Tac-Toe, that's a fun one.
Like, the question itself is so long, so I tensed about it.
Just build a Tic-Tac-Toe game, essentially. The hardest part for there, that's actually going to be your button clicks that are going to be...
the X and 0 have to come.
That's IB actions with IB outlets. So you put rows of, three rows of 3. And then you change the label on the buttons when you click the button. So that assignment's actually kind of twofold because it's getting at the properties of the components of the UI buttons. It's also getting at the actions associated with the buttons. And that one's all, you don't actually have to keep that much statistics on it either. Just put an X, put a Y, put an X, put a 0 on the buttons, depending, and go every other. Maybe keep a counter for which turn it is. The design of that program is more of the work than actually implementing it. That one's going to be a hard one too, I believe. Yeah. There's only a couple of them that are kind of hard, though, and a couple of them are really easy, actually. So. The first one is extremely easy. I think it's Hello World or something. And then the second one, well, is Tic-Tac-Toe. What's the third one? The clock. And then the fourth one is the, there's like, well, I think there's 2 clocks, a stopwatch, and then the fifth one's a no-brainer. It's anything. It's any multi-view you want. So, yeah. Yeah, the Tic-Tac-Toe. Anyone do did you do a Tic-Tac-Toe? You didn't do any of them yet?
Just typing.
Make an attempt. Doesn't have to be perfect. See how far you can get with it. If it's incomplete, if it's complete enough, you'll probably get full credit for it. So, I'm not looking for perfection, obviously. And what I'm looking for primarily is your own work. If your assignments are not your own work, forget it. You're not going to get any credit at all. If they are your own work but they don't work, you're going to get full credit for it. I want your own work is what I want. I mean, that's what's going to make me happy is to see everyone do their own work. I don't care if it's a piece of junk, if it doesn't work at all. It's all full of bugs. That's okay. You did it yourself. That means more. And everybody else is not going to get any credit for anything. Okay, I'm done with the lecture. Let's start doing some Xcode. Alright, so open up a fresh, if you're going to follow along, and what I'm going to do now is show you how to load a splash screen into a project. You can do this any project you want. So go ahead and just create a new project. I'm going to call it, actually I have to switch over now to iOS platform here. I'm going to do a single view application. I'm going to go next. I'm going to call this my splash screen. Splash screen. There we go. And you don't have to use storyboards if you want to use storyboards. You don't actually. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do any real programming in this project. But you can use automatic reference counting if you want. That works out well. So go ahead and press on next. Save it. I'm going to save it to my desktop so I can destroy it later. Have I showed you guys how to put icons on your apps as well?
Yeah.
We did that. Okay. I don't think we did splash screens though, did we? No. So now we need an image. So I could pull one of these off the internet real quickly actually, but here's what we have in terms of where this goes and how we're going to do it. The image is going to be called default something, default PNG or default JPEG or default GIF, depending upon the type of file that it really is, but the key word is we don't want to have to name it, we don't have to do anything, we want to automate the process. So if you look in the middle of the screen, if you click on the Summary tab, which is what should show up automatically, if it doesn't, click on the project and click on Summary. So we know we drag and drop and we put icons in here for the program. Under here where it says launch image, this is where the splash screen is coming from. So I'm just going to pull something off the internet real quick and I'm going to go to this site here. Actually, I can give you the URL for the site because it's really cool. Been promoting this site all weekend. findicons.com/search. And, or actually, I think it might just go under findicons.com. Let's go search, actually. Let's see. It's free icons. Well, not all of them are free, but most of them are. So I'm going to search on, I don't know, let's call this monkeys. Monkey. Here's a monkey. Oh, this is a cool monkey. So here's monkey brains. Wow, this looks really cool. So I'm going to click on this one. Most of them are free. If they're not free, they're going to tell you. These are legal. You can use these in anything you want, actually, if they're free. If they're allowing you to download it like this, it's free. So I'm going to save, this is the really bad monkey brains. So I'm going to save the image. Well, it is monkey brains. Well, I'll just here make brains. Chilled monkey brains, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to put it on the desktop. Do I want an icon? Well, I don't necessarily need an image, but just to refresh your memory, I'm going to take this monkey here. And he's going to be my program icon for those of you guys who have missed that one. I'm going to call this one bicycle, although it's a monkey on a bicycle. I'm not quite sure where this monkey obsession came from, but recently I've been using a lot of monkey icons in my examples. So just forgive me if you don't like monkeys. So we all know from the last, if you've missed this one, we all know we can drag. So if I drag and I drop it, and it's going to tell me, oh, it needs to be 57 by 57. So then this is just kind of a refresher for those people who missed it. Then I can double click on it. I can come up and open it. If I double click on it, it opens it up in the preview window. And then I can go over to tools and I can go over to size, adjust size. And I can put in 57 by 57. I have to do the same thing actually with the splash screen. So now that's much smaller now. So now I can drop it in here and it should work. And it does. What I forgot to tell you last time when we went over the audio video is if you have problems with it, it's the wrong video file, it doesn't work, there's something wrong with the audio or it's an AVI file or something, put it in iTunes and then copy it about iTunes. Essentially it's going to convert it for you. It has to be compatible with the device. So some of the video is the wrong aspect ratio or something. Just drop it into iTunes and that'll fix it for you. So now I have the program icon. It's now this little guy on the bicycle. Now I'm going to take the brains and I'm going to drag it. I'm only going to drag it to the first spot here. Oh, actually brains worked. Not a bad idea. The brains actually worked. But I have a little thing down here. A little thing says if I look at the message, well, I'm going to leave it alone, but it's probably going to tell me something about the aspect ratio, like something about the size of the splash screen. So now if I run it, I can see, well actually before I even run it, I can see that it's called default. It was labeled for me automatically. Don't change this. Don't make it monkey or something, because it's not going to work. For some strange reason, the splash screen has to be called default. This could be called anything you want, and it's loaded in the project automatically when I dropped it in there. So if I run it, I'm going to see it, this monkey brains thing show up, but it's not going to stay up long enough for my needs. In fact, I like it when my icons my splash screen stays up there for a while. Actually, it's working too bad. That's pretty fast, actually. Now if I close the app, I can sort of see, well, here's my monkey. But that was pretty quick, though. Loaded up pretty quick. You can adjust that speed. And you'd think that Xcode would actually kind of, or, you'd think that they'd stick it in here, In fact, it makes sense right here, how many seconds you want it to load. No. And so what you have to do is play around with this a little bit. You have to actually use a sleep command. And the sleep is going to sleep the app when it first loads. So you want to do a when did app finish loading, or you have to go through the cycle of the life cycle of the app. So if I click on the app delegate.m file, under here where it says application did finished launching with options. Not very user intuitive actually, but if I add a little line up here on the top and say sleep, and I say how many milliseconds or seconds do I want it to sleep for? Let's sleep for 4. So I just basically put a sleep in here. So after the app finishes launching, all the options that associate with it, sleep. Which is kind of weird, actually. But this stuff is going to happen after the sleep, which means my view controller, which is my view controller and my XIB file over here, is going to show after the app sleeps. I don't like this background color. I'm actually going to change the background so you can kind of see. Whoops. Click on the attribute inspector. Everything's going to be purple today. So I got purple. But this is actually going to load after. So self.window UI window. That's the UI window. So if I put a sleep in here, it's going to delay the loading of the window, which means the default image is still out there. If I run it right now, it's going to stick up there much longer than, because 4 is pretty long. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is the monkey brains ever going to go away? Oh, there it goes. And I can kind of see it go away. You can actually play around with the timing of it and have it stay up much faster. It actually is running extremely slow on my computer right now. When you actually load it on the device and you don't put a sleep in there, flashes. Sometimes you barely even see it. That's why you have to sometimes put a sleep in there to slow it down. Alright, and we know, because someone mentioned, let's talk about Tic-Tac-Toe right now, actually, because someone mentioned that Tic-Tac-Toe game, and they had a question about it. I'm going to build a mini Tic-Tac-Toe game right now. Not because I'm bored, but because I think it might help you actually. Because when I was trying to describe it, I couldn't describe it in words. So we have a program running right now, right? Hopefully. So click on the XIB file, and then go down to the bottom here, and let's just drag. Let's just drag some buttons and stick it on there. You know, like what are these buttons going to be? Well, oops, hello. Put the button out here. And our Tic-Tac-Toe game can look like this, actually. It has to have 3 buttons, right? So this is what I was recommending that you do. You have 1, 2, 3 buttons. And we have 3 buttons here. There's probably a faster way of doing this. Who knows? This is just an example of how you might be able to put it together. And then you can keep track of your turns down here as an example. So look at maybe a label. I'm going to label here. Call this a turns. Maybe, I don't know. And a label down here to keep track of the number of the turns. You know, and all your stats and stuff. Now this is, I can line these up, make them beautiful if you want. You could actually leave them blank. You could put X's and O's on here and load images if you want, because what you're doing essentially is, as you know, if you left them like here, you could just go like O. You know, it could, you know, make the label change to an O, make the label change to an X. Whoops. I'd set them all blank initially though, so I'm going to set the labels to blank. And programmatically, if it's one turn, so if player A, then your O's. If player B, then your X's. So let me refresh your memory on the next step here. You're going to click on the editor. And you're going to essentially make some IB outlets and some properties. You're going to need both actually, because you want to be able to set the label. So if you have this button over here, if you press down the control button on your keyboard and you drag it over here, I'm going to put here turn. So whose turn is it, kind of thing? You know, and this is going to be like player A, player B, kind of thing. Actually, I'm going to make this singular and just say turn. So every time you click on a button, it's going to switch the turn. So let's say it starts out with player A. So this could actually say, for example, player A. Not to write this whole thing for you, and I'm not going to. I'm going to stop at a certain point. I'm just giving you one design option that you could possibly use. I have this turn label here that is associated here that I can set the text for using set text. So as an example here, if I'm starting out with A and I click, I can say B, player B. So on the buttons, we know these are going to be IB actions, so I'm going to right mouse click on the buttons. And I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to use that touch up inside. Well, maybe I'll just use the touch down, make it easier. I'm going to control drag those buttons here. This is basically, it's an exercise in creating a lot of buttons. A lot of GUI controls. So this is going to be button 1. And I'm going to go maybe from left to right. So this one over here is going to be button 2. And it's kind of tedious actually when I think about it, but whoops, I don't want to connect that. Hold on a second. Delete it. Button 2. So make sure I have this connected correctly. There we go. Okay, but I'm going to only do the first 3 buttons. You're going to do all the buttons. So, touch down, let's say button 3. I could change the IB outlet here to UI button, or I've left it on IB for the ID for the rest of them, so I'll just leave it on ID here. It's no big deal. Alright, so now I'm going to say, well, what happens if the user clicks on button number A or button number B? So I'm keeping track of the buttons, and then over here, I could say, well, this is in the .m file for the view controller. And this is where I'm going to say, well, for button number 1 here, I can actually set it, like let's say the local variable, maybe integer turn, and it's going to be 0 or 1. And I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say, in my .h file, I'm going to add a variable for this. It's going to be my, I don't want to call it counter. It's going to be integer turn. Turn is going to be 1 or 0 depending upon if it's player A or player B. And then in my implementation here, I can say, and this is just like a C++, or just like C code, I can say if turn is larger than 0, then, so if turn is larger than 0, then turn equals 0. So I've switched it. Oh no, larger than 0. Switch it back there, and then I'm going to say, what's that label called? It was called turn something. Turn. I think it was called turn. Actually, bad word. I should have said turn counter or something. Or you shouldn't use the word turn twice like that. That's really bad design, actually. So set text. Set text to an NS string. What are we going to set it to? We're going to set it to player. So if turn is larger than 0, then we're on player A. So now I'm going to take this here. And, so if I press the first button, and I happen to be there, well, I should put the else in there, right? So else. What's going to be the else then? So if turn is larger than 0, nope, turn is 0, then turn is equal to 1. Turn is going to be equal to 1. And then I'm going to set the text here. I'm just going to cut and paste this here. Now we're player B. So if I run this right now, this player A, player B, actually let me just take out the text here so we can see it change. I'm going to say no player. Hopefully we'll have, hopefully we'll see something going on here. Well, who knows? I might have to hit it twice actually because I didn't initialize turn anything, but turn might actually be 0 initially. So I got my monkey brains. Ah, player B, look at that. Player A, look at that. Player B, look at that. Player A, look at that. Player B, look at that. So we know what player we're on by who clicks what, right? And we put this code in all of the buttons, right? So next thing we got to worry about is what we're going to put on the label. Well, I'll let you figure that out. But think of the concept here. And what is this little button called? This is called a button ID number 1, right? So player A. So button 1 dot, well, doesn't work. We're getting a mistake here, right? What's going on? Well, we have to set, this is a property that we set up, turn, and the property was over here. Property here. What do we know about property and synthesize? If we have a property over here and it's an IB outlet, then we actually don't have a synthesize for this one. Actually, I was kind of inconsistent. I didn't synthesize, did I? Oh, it put it in there automatically. I get synthesized turn in here, so I can change that one around. But really, all I want to do is essentially take this button here, control drag it over here, create a property now. So it's going to give me an outlet connection type. Well, I already got an outlet. I could call it button 1. Let's do it that way. It's an IB button. But I got a property now. And that property is called button with a huge 1 next to it, right? So it's different than this one down here. So, oops, it's different than this guy here. This guy is an IB action for the touch up that we created. This is a property. So now I can read and write to property. And so I can, what I'm going to do there, I'm going to set the label to something. What did I call it? Button something? I called it button 1 dot set, well, what do I got here? Set value, set title color, set ages. There should be a label. You know what? There should be a label on that button, actually. Now I think about set selected, set tagged. Maybe I have to go up higher here. Set image. Ooh, set image. There's an option for you. What about the image here? Set the image. That actually might be a cool thing. Because here's what you can do with the image. If you set an image on the button, you can do this. Here, actually, let's go back to that website. Now I'm just playing around here because this is fun. X. Oh, we don't have an X, but let's take a broken heart here. Save. Let's take the broken heart. We're going to play that's an X, right? How did we get an X? Oh, that's X. Oh, that is actually kind of funny. My X. I gotta have some humor here. I'm gonna take the X here. What did I do with my X? Brains, heart. Here's my heart. This is actually kind of like I think what I would do actually is you can drag it in here. You can set the image. I'm gonna paste it in here. If you set the image, you can do it. Now that the image is in the project, you can actually set it to that image. Whereby the image is an UI image, and the UI image is going to be, I'm not going to write this code for you. You have to figure out how to set the image, but when you set the image programmatically, it's the same as doing this, actually. Let's go back to this panel here. It's the same as doing this here. In fact, you could set some initial images. Let me click on the button here real quick. It's round rectangular. Let's put the image here as the heart. Ooh, that looks nice. You can even take the frame off the heart. Did that? Oops. Hello. There we go. That could easily be an X or an O. So you're gonna programmatically, and you know the method for. I just gave you the method, but you go Google the syntax and you can figure it out. You're gonna load an image in there if it's the X's turn versus the Y turn. So when you run it, obviously. Build failed. That's probably because I left that bad code in there. So let me pull that bad code out of there, actually. I don't want to set the image. I have incomplete image in here, so let's not set the image. There we go. So when I run it, my image is going to change on the button, and it's going to tell me, oh, those are ugly brains. Why did I set it for 4? So when it goes player A, player B, player A, player B, my image can also go from an X to an O. But obviously that would be cheating, right? So we could say, put a default image on there, and the default image maybe says, click here. Or maybe it's empty. Maybe it's completely empty, and check, do an if on it. If the image is equal to this, or just make it so that the check says, you know, if image, you know. You'd have to come up with your own logic, but if it's already been selected, actually could set another counter. All right, not to give the whole project away, but it's all counter oriented. So up here, you could design it this way and go integer button 1 used. Whoops, probably don't want to use that symbol. That's illegal. Integer button. I'm not going to do all 6 buttons. 2 used. If I can get my drift here. And we set that to a counter. And then down here, you check if it's whose turn is it. Then switch the turn. If the button's used, don't do anything. Don't change it. If someone already put an X, if someone's already clicked. So once you click on here, and let me show you what happens when you click on this. I'm going to put in here button. This is button number 1 equals 5, let's say, for example. And then up here I go, if turn is larger than 0 and button 1, you know, actually let's just do it this way, and button 1 used is larger than 0, smaller than 0, then turn is equal to 0. Button 5 is equal to used, because button 5 hasn't been used yet, right? So it's never going to go in here, and then you can actually add an else if here, put a condition in here if you want to. But the trick is this has to be less or maybe equal to 0. Or okay, so less than 1. Let's do it that way. Actually, we don't want 0. It means it's 0. We're setting a flip on that as well. So if the button's used, we're not going to make it usable again. So we're turning it off, which means someone already clicked on that button and means it's used. It's been set to something other than 0. It doesn't really matter if you make it 5, you make it 10. So now in this particular case, if turn is 0, well, okay, so we'd have to add this logic down here then as well. So we'd have to go else if button 1, you basically put your logic in here. You understand what I'm saying?
You can disable the button.
You could disable the button. After you set the image on the button, you could disable the button.
Where we should put it is it within the button IB action or?
I would put it in the IB action. In fact, you can go here, button 1. I can't remember the name of the, there's a way of doing it. You can turn it off. Enabled, I think it's enabled false. Is it enable? No. There's a set enabled. Set enabled to false. Yeah, it's another approach if you don't want to use a counter. You could do that. So now we, I keep leaving these guys out. Okay, so let's take this off here because we're not going to use the counter anymore, right? So once you set it to false. If it's a false, you can't, well, it's going to change the image, but it's still false. Well, you could check to see if it's enabled. So if you ran it, here turn is equal to 0. Okay, we're going to be 0 at the onset because we didn't set. If you don't set integer values, everything initializes to 0. So you're going to be 0 on everything at the beginning of the game. So now if I click on it, I had to click on it twice because I had to set it. Now it's just, what did I put it in? Largest, if it was B, I had to click on it twice to get to the B turn. But now it's not clickable, which means it's disabled.
So to enable it, you can go to view
it's the same thing, but you put true here instead of false.
But there's no way you can do it through when you run the program. Like when you
Yeah, you can. Watch this. Instead of it being true, you set it to false. You set this to true. Set enabled to true instead of false. Oh,
yes,
if it's disabled,
if you disable it and you try to enable it afterwards.
Watch this. Then you put a reset out here. If the user's already selected it, they should not be able to select it again, right?
Restart the game, all buttons reset.
Reset, and then you go. If I put a button out, this is what you want. I think you just drag another button out here, and the button says reset or play again. Play again. And then you drag the. Make sure I'm on the .h file here. I'm going to drag the IB action over, and I'm going to put the action here as a touchdown. Stick it at the top here, and this is going to be the play again button. And then over here, whoops, I'm going to go, and this is going to be kind of tedious, but I can go button 1 dot set enabled to true, and then I'd go button 2 dot set enabled to true, except for button 1 doesn't exist, so what's wrong with button 1? Oh, because I spelled it wrong. There we go. Let me get rid of the side piece here. I'm typing too fast. I'm like the world's worst, terrible typist. There we go.
And there's also a way to improve all these 9 buttons.
There is. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. You're going to see this. As soon as this, well, I shouldn't have started it. Let me show you how to group the buttons together, actually. It's going to be real easy. Extremely easy. So now it's not. So now play again. Okay, so now I can play with it. So let's say we want all of these buttons to work with this one method here.
Yeah.
So we go into here, we right mouse click here, and we wire them together so they're all together. So we go, click on the .h file, and we want them all to be button 1. Let's say, for example, and this one's button 1, right? So we go like this, we right mouse click. We can drag this guy, actually we can get rid of this guy, right? We can drag it from here back up to touchdown. Whoops, we can't do it this way. Hold on. Ooh, what did I do? Maybe I shouldn't have deleted that. Okay, well, I want this one though. I want yeah, button number 1 goes to here. Button number 1 goes to here. Wait a minute, wrong way. Yeah, goes to here. Yeah, I got it. Button number 1 goes to here. Button number 1 goes to here. So now when I hover my mouse over, you see all these guys here? They're all wired to this one. Button number 1. I'm not pressing down the control key. I'm just dragging on this guy and going backwards from the code to the buttons. So if I click on, hover to here, I see that I've connected all those. Let's click this one too. So all the buttons should work the same essentially. They're all connected together. So if I go into one of these in particular and I take a look, it should say it's a file under button 1, which is this guy down here. Button 1, which is the label I put on the button. You can't see it, but maybe if I zoom in, you can see it. See how it says button 1 : right here? That's the name of the button. So you could have them all work together, which would be the more efficient way of doing it, which is kind of like a, you know how I would probably do a calculator, actually, and I think the calculator example is doing it that way. Yeah. So yeah, I think I brought in a calculator example at one point, couple classes ago. So if I did that, then any of these buttons should then, at this point, all I have the functionality for right now is setting the label to player 1, player 2. But they should all toggle together, actually. So let's see what happens. Maybe I should have picked better monkey brains. Player A, player B, player A, player B, player A, player B. Oh, broken heart. We'll show you. A, B. So now we have our player turns ready, right? Practically written this for you. You could probably, again, now have something where when everything's done, have a check, maybe, on the last button, or have a check that says in here, you can put code, you know, if this one's an X and this one's an X, when you hit this one, or say how many combinations do you have right here? You have this row and you have this row. You also have this row, so you have 3 checks you have to put in. If this is an X, this is an X, and this is an X, then, so you have to keep track of the X's somehow. Or if this is an X, this is an X, and this is an X, and if this is an X, this is, then player A wins. If there's zeros, then player B wins. Unfortunately, you have to do it for like all of them, but you can come up with your own algorithmic way of doing it, actually. If you get all of the interface to work, but you can't tell who wins and who loses, don't worry about it. You've done a majority of the assignment, you're going to get full credit for it. If your logic's wrong and, you know.
You take a position like a button, right?
Yeah. Well, you got these all.
If we take player A equal to X and player A equal to B, then click the button and the X will come into the buttons.
Yeah. Well, you should easily, this is easy, and this is a no-brainer putting the label on there, but I was talking about checking to see who won the game. Eventually you're going to want to find, eventually there's going to be a winner and a loser, right? But as soon as you do this, you can keep track. Actually, you could put a matrix together if you wanted to. Put an array together if you wanted to, rows and columns, and then cross-check it. There's many different ways you can figure out the logic. Or you could simply use variables and set if A, B, and C are all true, or they're all X's, or they're all 1s, then player A is 1. If this one, and this one, and if each one of them has a number associated with it, then you can keep track. And you're just going to run it for each of the combinations, and if any of the combination gets hit. So what you could do is write a good old-fashioned function and put the function in here so that this calls the function. Maybe you have only one button, might be the more efficient way of doing it. Maybe you have multiple buttons, and then just have one function that goes through and checks each one of the scenarios, and then sets another variable, player A1. If you want to take the variable approach, you don't have to take that approach. That's just like the no-brainer kind of easy way of doing it. So.
There will be bugs. Or
Oh, bugs.
bugs. If you assign each cell a letter, ABC, ABC, ABC,
Yeah.
then that means any combination of ABC will work.
Yeah. No, you got bugs then.
It doesn't have to be a straight line between.
That's true. That's true. That's why I say if you build up 90% of it, but you can't get the who won, who lost, don't worry about it. Don't rack your head against the wall about it. You might be able to get it to work eventually.
The B1 button 1 is equal to X label X.
I'm sorry?
Button B1
Yeah.
is equal to X.
Equal to
Button
X?
B2, button B2 is equal to X. Button B3 is equal
Oh
to
yeah,
X.
you could do it that way. The logic is yours. You can do anything you want. I might not be giving you the most efficient way of doing it either. You could have actually take what we did earlier in the other course and use an NS array for it.
Yeah.
And keep track of these rows as arrays. So you got one. You only got 3 times 3. You know, different kind. Well, yeah.
3 times X.
Yeah, different combinations, and then keep each one of them, and then when one of them hits, you've got a player wins. But so that's the tic-tac-toe game.
Thank you so much.
It doesn't seem that hard now that you've
Yeah.
seen it sort of half written,
Yep.
but it's just a matter of playing around. The thing with this is to get the controls to work with the variables. That's the thing. So the clock. I don't know. You know what? You guys want to see a clock? I'll put one together. Not right now though. I'm gonna put it. I'll put it together for you next time. How's that?
Monday.
Next Monday, if someone reminds me, send me a message. Tell me I'm supposed to put a clock together.
Sure.
Because I have to research it, because I don't know right now. I can't remember what libraries I need for it, but there's date pickers and time pickers and clocks and stuff that you can actually load in.
Last class you even told that you put a calculator code.
Yeah, I decided not to give it to you, because it was giving you everything you needed for the tic-tac-toe game. So, alright, so that was the splash screen.
So this class was recorded, right?
It is recorded. It's being recorded right now. You can go back and watch that several times.
Sometimes whatever we did the same thing, we usually get the errors.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? This is being recorded, so. Yeah.
That's
Let me show you another little nifty one. So let's say you get a winner in the game. You might want to show a dialog box, right? Say, hey, player 1 won, right?
Yeah.
Overlay text.
No. Check this out. Check this out. I haven't shown you guys yet. Oh, no. I don't think I have monkey brains on this one. Monkey brains. OSHA. So now we have a this project's about dialog boxes and stuff. I have a tutorial for it, so I'm going to walk you through the tutorial on it. And this is I gave the digital arts guy people this last weekend. So you can take an input as an example. Let's say you want your game to say, enter your, this is like the beginning of your game as an example. Press continue. I didn't do anything with the information, but I could easily put it on a label or something like that. So I'm going to have a show another dialog with just text. Well, actually, wrong one. I have the wrong button on here. Let's see. Another dialog. I have the buttons labeled. I have the buttons working incorrectly. I have the show dialog with text bringing up the other one, but here's a piece of text, so it could say, hey, you won. Or this one here, which is supposed to be this one down here. It has a title and it has 3 different buttons on here. One of them could be quit. Huh? Destructive button, button 1, and button 2. So this one says, another button 1 was clicked. Let's see. Another button 2. Oh, that was another. Let's put the destructive. Here we go. Destructive button clicked. So I can tell which button was clicked. This is alright. So what is this code doing? Rather than going through the tutorial, I'll just show you the code because it's just a little easier at this point. Well, it's just a bunch of buttons, 2 buttons. In the app delegate at the beginning of the code here. I did not put in the app delegate. I put it in the view controller. In the view controller at the beginning of the code, we have the life cycle of the app when it's loaded. When it first loads, we have the view did load. And the view did load, that's where that little dialog box is coming into play. And that dialog box is part of the standard libraries. And here I have a UI alert view. Alert, which is that one I came in there. And so set with title, hello, the message, please enter your name. So now, and continue, the button. So what I'm taking here is essentially creating a built-in alert. So I could take that, and I'll show you in the next one how you can use that information to put it on the, you don't have to take in the person's name and show it on the screen, but you might want to. So in the viewcontroller.h file, you can see the buttons that are, actually let's open up the XIB so you can kind of see. I actually wired the buttons backwards. This one here that says another dialog shows the text. They're wired backwards. This one here and that one there. Oh, that's the label. What is this one here? Oh, the greeting. This one was actually half done, which is kind of interesting. So created properties and created IB actions, another button and display button that you should be familiar with. So another button and the display button, if we look at it, oops, let's go back to the end file. Here we go. On the bottom of my code, here's the another button on the bottom, and the another button is just putting text up there. So here's how you get, this is the code you actually can cut and paste this and use it for your for player 1-1, or you could put up a an extremely irritating dialogue every time a player goes, nice choice, whatever. Try again, whatever. Every time you hit the buttons, this thing could come up probably if you wanted to. And it's just going to show you. It has some text on there and it has a little message on there. And it's setting the background color, the text color. It's kind of overkill. It's just essentially. And this particular project, because I know someone is going to ask me about it, it's called Show Dialog. This particular project is this one here, number 15. If you want to be able to put like player 1-1 easily, that's where that text box is coming up. So it's how to show a pop-up box. And the other part of this is actually kind of, it's meant for instructional purposes. So I put on the display button, which is actually the other button, but it's a UI action sheet, which is a pop-up. So the first one was like a little message that shows up in the middle of the screen. The other one, if you notice, came up down below. It's like a pop-up button. Well, it has an action sheet that's associated with it, and the action sheet here's action sheet style is set as the UI action sheet style black with opaque. So it came up with a black background and it was opaque, and I was able to put cancel button, destructive button, other button on the labels for the buttons. And then what we have down here is the action sheet items. So it was setting the name label.text. Another way of setting that, instead of using a set text, it used a dot text on the label. Same process as we saw a few minutes ago. What we did before was Objective-C. This is kind of hybrid C, Objective-C, because we're setting the property instead of running the set and the get on the object label. But anyway, long story short, we're putting this up here, and this is button index number 1, button index number 2, and button index number 3. We're setting the indexes of the buttons. Excuse me, we're checking the index. If button number 1 was selected, 0 was selected, 1, 2, 3, then change the label. Put the label on here. You could use something like this actually for your tic-tac-toe. Yeah, actually, but you'd have to set. This is a harder way of doing it, I think, because you'd have to set up. I don't know. You can't really do this with a button control. This is on the menu itself. So this is the control for the pop-up menu. So you don't really have the same kind of thing on a button. It'd probably be easier to use another approach. You can't just set up an action sheet on it. The action sheet is associated here. So UI action sheet alloc for the pop-up query. Yeah, so you could, not the easiest way of doing it. You could tweak it. Yeah, but you only have one click or no click on the button. When the user clicks the button, it's going to be, all you have to do is figure out is it player A or player B. And you can tell if you keep a little switcher counter thing going on there, and then do whatever is appropriate if it's player A or player B. And then once each turn is done, call a function or a method that says check to see if you win yet. So, well, I had to give the entire assignment away, but anyway, just thought this one might be interesting to show you tonight, because it kind of works in the same way with being able to give the user some feedback. So, I'm just kind of curious what the people who aren't here, how much progress are they going to make? I don't know. I'm kind of worried about what kind of projects I'm going to see. So.
2 weeks ago, I see. No, last week I saw no 1, 2. one person trying every single
Oh, really?
assignment.
How do you know when someone turns something in?
I don't know because I saw all at once on every single one.
Ah, I see what you're talking about.
So I'm assuming that's the same person.
Hmm.
It's kind of awkward to start with like 1 and then skip it to 5.
Could be one person. Come in. Usually everyone's going to turn it in like, what is it, the 26th?
Yeah.
Don't wait till the 26th. The system's going to go down, you know it.
Yes,
It always does.
yes. Yes, it's always
Huh?
Then you get emails.
I'm not responding to those. If you were ever to be a TA for me, then you can, if you're going to be a TA, you're going to respond to those emails. After a while, you're not going to like it either. So. All right, let me show you another project. I think we'll probably end. Huh?
Next semester.
Oh,
Yeah. This one's called Web Page by special request. You have to load a PDF file and a web file in a table view, I believe. So let me show you which one this is. It is called Load a Web Page, and it's this project right here. We got choices. It depends on how much pain you want to go through this evening. You can build it from scratch, or I can show you the finished product. Let me show you the finished product first, and then you can tell me whether or not we want to build it from scratch. It's Webview, right? Nope, wrong one. It's Web Page. Here it is right here. Here it is. I just want to make sure I'm showing you the final result, the correct final result.
And this Xcode,
Mm-hmm.
they use Ajax.
No, it can, but I'm not using Ajax.
I mean, let's say have the feature that's for XML return from HTML returns the XML format of data and then converts it into a program.
Yeah, but you don't have to go that far. You know, that's a hard way of doing it. It doesn't do that.
Yeah. Or let's just say just one specific data and not the whole website load. So maybe Ajax can fetch small part of the data.
Yeah, correct. If you come on the 15th of September, which is coming up actually, I'm going to go through some of that stuff. If I'm lucky. It's the open seminar. It's a free workshop on HTML. It's app development for the web developer. So talking about websites, CSSs, Ajax, JavaScript, scripting web development languages used on the iPhone and the Android. But I'm probably going to focus it primarily on iPhone. Unfortunately, not everybody's got iPhone tools for it. So I'll probably be doing a combo throughout the day, but mostly focusing on third-party tools like PhoneGap and some of the other ones that are using Ajax, actually. Some of them are. Ajax-like technology, let me just put it that way. It's not Ajax like you see on the website, but it's very similar. But it's focusing on using website skills. Why does this say try handwrite on there? Is this Google's? Try handwriting? Unknown. What is this? This is the Google homepage. Why does it say try handwrite? Let's see. Ha! Oh, weird.
On your phone. Tablet.
Web page would like to. Okay, no. Okay. Anyway, so this is a. Whoa. Okay, I don't have a back. Actually, this is my back button here. You can write anywhere. This is something Google put together, by the way. It's not part of my app, although it's a really cool feature.
It's your app.
No, it's not my app. It is not my app. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at 3 buttons with a web view, and so the buttons will load a PDF file. Well, those will button ITU website. There it goes, which should load the ITU mobile website, which it does, which is nice. And then this is the back button, although I used a... I'm trying to figure out why in the world this icon's on here. I hope I didn't... I may have uploaded the wrong project to the website, actually, or I'm loading the wrong project. But long story short, this is the this is the finished product, and we can build it from scratch, or I can show you how it's done. Your choice. Depends on if you guys want to build another app right now. Oh, well, let's just build another app. No one's going to volunteer to come up with an answer. This will take us through the rest of the evening. See, this is the back button, so why is that? Oh, you know why? I think it's loading it from my cache on my computer. Not really loading my project. So anyway, open up a new Xcode project. And let me clean this up a little bit, actually. As you know how to clean up the recent, you know how to clean up this mess?
Yeah.
Okay, good, good, very good. Open recent clear menu. All right, so let me find the PDF file. Let's just go through it. It's not going to take that long. Here it is here. It's the one that's called webpage.pdf. So we're going to create a new single-viewed application, and we're going to name the project webpage. And we're going to select reference counting, but we're not going to use a storyboard. All right, so open up a new web. This is web. Select single view. All right, I'm going to call this one website because I know I have web page on the desktop already. And we're going to use automatic reference counting, so we're good. And I'm going to save it on the desktop, so we're good. Perfect. I think my Xcode project is pulling up my one from the weekend because I was messing around with the icons. I'm like, those aren't the icons that are in that project. Okay, so open up the viewcontroller.xib file and drag a Webview from the library to the window. Don't fill up the whole window, leave a little room on the top because we want 3 buttons, one for IT, one for PDF, and one for back. So I'm going to click on the XIB file, and I'm going to make sure I have my library down here on the bottom, which I do. I'm going to type in Webview. This is the easiest way to load a Webview in here, by the way. If I put it in here, if I try to do this, it's going to take up the whole space. And if I do that, it's going to be, well, I can pull it out. Okay, normally it doesn't pull out this easily. If I have problems pulling it out, I can click on this little button over here down the bottom of the screen, and I can pull it out this way. So now I have it taken out. Because I don't want it to fill up the whole space. Because I want to put some buttons on the top. I'm going to make it a little smaller, then I'm going to stick it back in. I can stick it back in that way, or I could drag it back in. Let's see, I'm going to put it down here. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take 3 buttons from the library. I'm going to stick it on the desktop. This actually might help you with the buttons too. Button, right round rectangular button, got 1 button, 2 button, 3 button. This stuff is actually kind of fun after a while. Well, if you're not afraid of it, it's kind of fun. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. Let's see. I keep thinking this is Monday as well. I kept thinking, you know, I can start this one and then on Wednesday. I'm like, no, this is Wednesday. Alright, so when the page loads up, we're going to want it to go to a website. That's how we got Google in there. So we're going to need to click on the tuxedo button. And now we're going to have to control drag over the touch up inside connection of the 3 buttons. We've done this before actually in the previous example, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it real quick. But I'm going to call it ITU button, back button, and PDF button. So I'm going to click on the little tuxedo. I'm going to come over here. This app will be built in 15 minutes. Touchdown. Okay, this is a good thing. So I'm picking touchdown today for some reason. I usually pick up touch up inside. If we were working on the real device and we had our finger touching the screen, we could touch up inside. We could touch down directly on top of it. We could touch, I don't know, these rest of drag in upside, drag inside. But we can't do very much on the emulator. It's hard to get the mouse click. So all the controls for the touch work the same. We can't test it on the emulator.
What is the touch cancel?
Where do you see touch cancel? Oh, touch cancel. I guess if you, I don't know what a touch cancel is.
Once you touch it, it's already
Once you touched it, you touched it.
Right?
Maybe that's like the did end on exit when you type in a text field, and it ends, you know, it sends that done on the return call. Maybe it's something similar to that when you're done canceling the touch. I don't know. That's where you need one of those books that tells you. ITU button. Oops. I'm going to change the outlet type to button. I have a tendency to just I don't like to use ID for it. This is going to be the PDF button. That's where the reference stuff comes in handy. PDF button. There's a ton of documentation. Actually, just Google button cancel iPhone event. Touch cancel iPhone event. Probably get more than enough information on that. Yeah, this is going to be the back button. So let's see, touch down. Call this one the back button. And I'm loading the PDF and I'm loading the website. Well, actually, I'm loading the PDF from a web location. I have another one. I'll show you when I'm done with this one that loads it from within the project. I won't go through that one because at this point it's going to be like overkill, but because it's the same app, it's just loading it from a different location. So let's see. I'm going to click on the little tuxedo guy here. I'm going to switch over to the controller.m file. And close the side, make the real estate look a little bit bigger. What's it going to tell me? Property web display. Ah, I forgot the web display. Hasn't been defined yet. Yeah, I know. I forgot about that one. So I'm going to click on the UI web display. And I'm going to go back to my .h file here. And let's take this web display. I'm going to call it web display. Actually, I'm going to call it web display. So I'm going to go here and control drag it to here. Call this one web display. Okay, so now I got a property web display in here. If I go to the .m file, property web display requires, what does that say? Well, let's see. Requires a method web display to be defined, use synthesize. Okay, let's just do this here. Clean. Yep, there we go. That's when the clean comes in handy. So, down on the bottom we've got our 3 buttons here. So I don't know why, but I like to start out by making a little room in here because I don't like the fact that they're so scrunched up. So now I'm going to go back to my little cheat sheet over here, my instructions here, and it's going to say, so I've created the 3, now I'm going to control drag it. I put the UI web display on there. Now the final file looks like this. Okay, so step number 5. When the website loads in the view did load method of the controller.m file, I'm going to put this code in. So I'm actually just going to cut and paste it. So I'm going to copy. You know what? Maybe Google added the handwriting stuff for the mobile site. That would be really cool. So the view did load right in here. I'm just going to remove this super view did load because it's already there. And what I'm going to paste in here. I'm going to paste this in here. And so I'm going to go through this once. I don't have to because it's the same thing for the PDF file. So you can load a website, we can load a PDF file, we can load a doc file, a PowerPoint file, anything we want from an internet location by using a URL object. So we have a URL address, that's going to be Google, and then we have a URL object, so NSURL, which is going to be a new URL string with this URL address. And the URL address in this particular case is Google. And then I'm going to create a URL request object, which means I'm going to request this URL. And this is the protocol for the HTTP interface for the web browser. And then when this is going to be web display load request, my load into the web display this request object that I've selected. And then this is the same. This is what was there before I started the method. So now if I kind of run it just to test to see what's going to happen, I should get Google showing up in that window. It's just like the initializer that's going to come back to the main object and initialize the view of the main object. Is that super? Let me go back to super for a second. So now I see this is the Google, but the buttons aren't going to work yet. So I'm going to close this one for a second. This is running super's view did control. So this is the view did control. And we are inheriting from view, if we look at the .h file, we are inheriting from UI view controller. So run the view did control, view did load from super. This is super right here. This is the object that's above it. And you should know this by now. This is inheritance. In the Objective-C class, we inherited from NSObject. In this class, we're inheriting from UI view controller, UI tab controller, UI whatever it is we want to inherit from. So So now we have the website loading. So now we actually, here I can just take this code here and copy and paste it, or I can take the code that's in the other one here. I want to load what the ITU website, so I'm going to just paste it here, and I'm going to put itu.edu here. So now if I run it, it's going to load itu.edu in that website. Oops, wrong button. It's not loading anything at all. Why is that? Oh, let's take a look here. Oh, probably because I'm loading the view again. Let's do it this way. Actually, I'm calling superdid here. Let me just get rid of this line right here, and I believe that's going to fix my problem. I'm loading the view did load again. It's loading the Google back. No? Okay, let's take a look. Did I wire this up correctly? This is the ITU button. itu.edu. Let's take the code here. I'm actually kind of curious to see what the difference is, actually. So let's take a look here. Let me put this away. Let me make this smaller so I can sort of see it. And a string. No, my code's the same. It's the right code. Let's see what a button that's associated with. Maybe I didn't get the button associated correctly. Yours is working? Mine should be working. It's the first button. Let's try it again. Maybe it just needed to, maybe it needed more time to load and I just wasn't giving it enough time. First button. No. First button.
ITU button.
Aye. ITU button. It could be that I lost my internet. I don't know. No, it's the first one loading up. Alright. Well, let's try the second button out then. This one's going to load a PDF file. So I'm going to load this into the IB action of the PDF file one.
We don't have to.
It's a running from a website here. This is the PDF button here. Paste this one in here. Oops, there we go. I'll shut this panel here so I can see it. Let me try this button actually. It could be that I was messing around and I didn't select the right touchdown event. I don't know. No, because yeah, here there's something wrong with this control here. Because this button's working. This is my PDF button. I probably, you know what? Let me take a look here. I probably messed up the. This is the. Which one is this? This is, oh, I know it's way up here. I can't see it. It's out of view. Let's just take a look here. Touch cancel. Oh, that's why it says touch cancel.
Oh.
Let's get rid of that touch cancel. It should be touch down. Touch down. You know what? I was talking about it. Someone was talking about it, and I just kind of. Actually, let's just do this here. Oh, that's the button itself. So let's see what happens actually. Touch up inside. Perfect. Okay, now let's run it. Probably is going to work right now. We were talking touch cancel, and I selected touch cancel. Now the button should work. And it's working. Okay, very good. Alright, so the back button is actually kind of cool. It's running an interesting method here. It's called go back. We have a go forward, go back, refresh. A bunch of web controls actually, which is kind of cool. I could type this, but it's mine. It's probably just easier to. Yeah, so back button here is going to take web display. Go back. Yeah, well, if you look at the methods that are associated with the object for web display, it's everything you can possibly imagine in a web browser. So you could actually make your own web browser quite easily by putting a bunch of buttons up in there. It says forward, back. Put a text thing in there for the URL. Create the URL object with the text. on the label of the text. A web browser is extremely easy to put together. It's given to you. So now all we really have to do now is, well, I'm going to put labels on here. I'm going to put here ITU, and I'll put here PDF. We could load PDF. I'm going to put here back. So this method here, I could put another button here that says forward, refresh, anything I want essentially, but the back button now should take us back. So if I click on, let's say for example, the PDF file, and I go back, it takes me back. Here. See, ITU takes a long time to load, and then I go to PDF, and it's just going to take me back to ITU, and then back to Google. The back button actually works. Well, code's given to us. The other thing too is that there's a special method up here, web display scales page to fit equals yes. If you put that on here, and I'm going to put it in the PDF one, because the PDF one is going to show a file, and I'm going to put it at the last line of the PDF code. What does this do? Well, you can't do it on the screen, but you know, if you had your two fingers and you were pushing in the page apart to open it up on a touch control device, this would make the image bigger. So we could actually read it. You hadn't noticed here, this PDF file is kind of small. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. You can't mimic it with the mouse either. But if you loaded this PDF file, I can go up like this with it, and then I can two-page the, but it's too small. Yeah, with your fingers. I can't show you how to do it with a mouse, but you're like two fingers, you're pulling it apart. So yeah, that's our web browser, and it's done from the internet. All the same code for all the buttons. You can load a Word file, a PDF file, a zip file, anything you want from a web browser. You can load it from that one. So let me show you something else as a concluding thought to this concept here. That's all coming from the internet. And that code right there, and the instructions to build that code right there, are right here. This one is the one that's called Load a Web Page. And here's the code for it right here. It's on the DA workshops. If you came in a little bit late, it's at this URL right here, behacker.com/workshops, DA apps. It's the ones I used last weekend. I'm recycling. But they're good apps, I think. They're fun apps. And I hadn't shown you guys this one, so I figured. Oh, did I leave it long enough? Okay, perfect. I got some more stuff on here I want to show you, but not tonight. There's one I want to leave you with, though. This one is called Webview. And you might notice two things here that are kind of interesting. I've got a webview.html file here. If I double click on this file, it brings it up in a web browser. It shows you HTML text, and here it is right here. 10 reasons you should write something each day. Or you got an image here. Click on the image, it's background image. Alright, so I stole the image and I stole the text and I stole the concept for this off of an internet website. So this is not original. However, it was easier just to download it than it was to slap it together real quick here. But let me show you what's different about this one. This one's got the resources here. So I've got, in the resource directory, here's the background image. Here's the web view. Here's that HTML file. In the XIB file here, there's nothing really. It's all done programmatically. If I look at the view controller for this, actually if we look at the H file here, we got nothing. We just got the web view property. There's a web view on there actually. The background was set to white, or clear, opaque. So same thing as we did before. We want to put a web view up there, but here we're going to actually do the property for it up here. And now what we're doing in the code is kind of easy actually. On the view did load when the web page loads up. This is all the code for this program by the way. And it's not using automatic reference counting, which is why we have the HTML release. I should rewrite this so it uses automatic reference counting, but this is an old project type. So you're setting the path. Well, the path is actually the local directory. So, and the path here is this file that's going to be right here, webview.html, which is going to be a path for resource. And opaque to no, the background color. The image itself is set on as the background in the properties of the web view.
What is the opaque?
Opaque, here's what the opaque's going to do actually. It's going to make it so that I can load this page and see what's underneath it.
What's under?
I'm going to show you. So I got the text in here. This is the HTML file on top of the background. It's opaque, which means I can see through it. If it wasn't opaque, it'd be solid.
Blank.
It would be white or color, and then I'd cover up the image that's underneath it.
Okay.
So the web view, the background on the web view component is set to this image. This is loaded on top of it, and this is both of these guys are right here. Here's the image here. They're not coming. It's a web view, but it's not coming from the internet. It's loaded from inside of the project, which is kind of the interesting part of it. And it's actually all loaded programmatically on the because if you look at the XIV file, all you have is this nothing. You have the window here. If I look at the components that are on the window, I see that there's a navigation controller. The navigation controller has the background in here.
So just load that view onto.
Yeah, it's just taking and loading that HTML file and sticking it on this view that's already created. And the view is this, actually, change the title here, my view, my website or something here. And then this image back here is, well, it's actually, here's the web view. It's on top. The web view is actually on top of the image, which is in the background. So I could change, oops, I didn't want to move it like that, but okay, yeah. Anyway, I just messed up the location of it. Put the web view back, there we go. Actually, if I load it like that, it might be kind of interesting to see the effect. Oops, yeah, stop it. It's going to be like half to the left. It's not going to be centered anymore. Might probably just messed it up anyway. Well, let's see. Yeah, here it is. It's like way over here. But you see, it's just a web view, and the web view is loading the code that's loading that file is in here. This is the code that's loading the
So when it's true, the background will be covered.
opaque. No, so it's not
Yes.
what do you call it? It's set to a clear color, and it's set. Oh yes, that's a good point. The opaqueness is turned off. No, the opaqueness is no. It's turned off. Opaque is see-through, isn't it?
Then why do you have clear color? Just it's a double.
Oh, the back. Yeah, no. Well, let's see what happens. Actually, if I do this. It's kind of messed up anyway, but I don't believe both of them are needed.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, they are needed. It didn't turn white. It turned white. So we needed to turn off the.
The web UI.
Perhaps it's just a setting that needs to be set to make the other one work correctly, because we did set the background to clear. So that's kind of interesting, actually. Opaque. No. Well, let's take out the clear color. Actually, that's a good point.
It's fast anyway. You don't have to wait 5 minutes to get it started.
I'm sorry.
It's not like Android. You don't
I know. It's lovely. It's not. Oh
Yeah,
no, you
so
need them
they-
both. You need them both in combination
That's probably better.
to have the clear color. Well, maybe it used to be. There was another library that said no color, which meant leave it. And then there's also settings that you can do this way on the XIV file. Let's see. To set the opaqueness. Center. Oh, this is for the image. I have to get to the UI web view here, and opaque. Here it is, opaque right here. So let's set clear graphics content. Let's see, hidden.
Hidden just means we're not gonna see it.
Yeah, I know. We don't do that one. It's set right here. Oh, actually here. Let's take this off. Then we don't have to set to no. Take this off. And then go in here, and I bet now we can get rid of the opaqueness.
It will work.
It's already off. It's not on.
Oh, okay.
Remember, it was selected.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you go back. That view is called storyboard, right?
Ha! There we go.
Yeah.
Well, we had it turned on, which is why we had to turn it off.
Okay, so one turn off. And
Yeah, so if we turn it off on the control, that's the thing. When I looked at that, I went, why in the world is that turned on? So you don't have to turn it on here if it's turned on over there. If you turn it on, that makes no sense. You might as well just turn it off, and then don't have to turn it on. Don't put it on, so you don't have to turn it off if you're not going to use it. But you could essentially load something else on top of that, maybe that wanted you to cover up the background. And then you could actually take this image here and not load it this way, because the background is this background up here. This is the image, so I could load a different image back there. Actually, that would be a cool effect. And that would, you know, kind of make it's an IT logo back here. Not much of an image, though. The other image looked better. So, which is kind of weird. I don't know, it gives you some ideas what to do with a Webview. And you don't actually have to have this web controller. Oh, you do actually for this particular project in order to get this bar to show up here. Otherwise, you could pull it off and just do it in a regular Webview. Just put this Webview on top of a background of a window, essentially. So, okay, I'll leave you with that. That's enough for tonight, I think. So Monday. What am I doing? I can't remember already. What am I doing on Monday? No, I'm doing date picker. Someone's going to send me a message. Time. I'm doing a clock. I'm doing a clock on Monday.
Is it the clock, the analog clock, or the digital clock?
I'm going to take a look at the assignment and I'll see what I can come up with.
I think it would be fun, the analog clock.
Analog?
Yeah,
Can you put that in the message?
Yeah.
Okay. You're my new TA.
put a couple of rectangles and make it, spin it around.
Analog.
Analog clock for Monday. Analog digital clock for Monday.
Yeah. And timer.
I don't know if I should do the timer for you though. It's supposed to be a stopwatch, I think. Okay, let me stop this video here.